Hey, this is Matt once again. What about another videos? This is another paid request, this time for Curtis. Thank you so much for that. Sorry for the delay on this. It took me a bit to watch this. And for those interested in requesting pretty much any type of videos, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. Now this is for Avatar The Last Airbender Season 2. Now I have seen Season 1 and I did quite enjoy it because for a kid's show I thought it tried to tell some decently emotional stories as she tries to do a fairly good job building up his characters. You have Aang, you have the brother and sister, Katara and Sokka. You have the villain, but there's more to him than you think, called Zuko. Actually voiced by Dante Basco, who played Rufio and Hook back in the day, and he was in Blood and Bone with Michael Jai White. He's been in a few other films. And I like Dante Basco. I forgot he was the voice of Zuko until I started watching this. It's been forever since I've seen the first season of Avatar, The Last Airbender. The animation, I think, worked well for its source on... at times it was on Nickelodeon. The voices, I mean, they do sound like kids, especially Aang, as it should. Like I said, there's some nice emotional stories and character development. I'd probably say I liked the first season more because I did feel like this lost a bit of steam in the third act, and then the third act was a bit of the Empire Strikes Back, where there's 3 seasons, this is the middle, and the way it ends is, again, just reminiscent of Empire Strikes Back to me. So it's like, man. But I did wise ending like that because of what's to come at the same time. As a single whole, it's not a satisfying ending. But again, I know that's the point for the bigger picture. I get that, so I'm not going to knock it that much for that. The setup, for those who don't know, you have these 4 nations: air, earth, water, fire. Fire wanted to conquer the other kingdoms. Aang is the new avatar. His job is to learn all of the 4 elements. He's the last airbender. In the first season, he learned about bending water with the help of Katara, her brother Sokka. He's pretty much the big comic relief of the whole show. He joins along. They also have this flying bison named Appa. Very cute design. Cute giant creature. And they have this flying lemur, white, called Momo. Again, very cute, interesting creature. Meanwhile, the new villain in this, because it was Zuko in the first season, but by this point, him and his uncle was actually voiced by Mako. And actually, I think it was during this season where he sadly passed away, because there's even an episode where it says in honor of Mako. Now, I don't know if that means someone else voices his character in the third season, or if they recorded all that in the one get-go. I don't know for certain. But he did do all his character. He did finish the voice word of his character for this season. But they're ostracized. So Zuko wants to find the Avatar to regain his honor. But throughout it, I would say his development is probably the most interesting of all the characters. As you learn more about his backstory, him trying to deal with his anger, dealing with what he's been taught to behold, to what he should really do for his own destiny. And plus, I like Dante Basco, like I said. So I thought Zuko was actually more interesting than Aang, the lead. And again, Aang is, the voice work was fine. I don't mind the character. I'm just saying, between the two, Zuko seemed like the more interesting character. And sometimes I felt I kind of want to follow his character more than Aang. But overall, the new villain is Zuko's sister, which she's very much a conniving lady who wants power of her own, and later gets these other 2 ladies to join her, and the 3 of them go after Outgain of characters. Now there's 20 episodes. throughout this season is pretty much Aang trying to learn to bend earth. Then he did water last season, and this is the earth. So it's a big journey to try to find a teacher, and then once found a teacher, to go to the city to warn them and let them know we have a plan that we could conquer and destroy the Fire Nation who are trying to kill us. We have a way, an ace up our sleeve, so to speak, with information we found out. And that's kind of the big story of the season. So I figured the best way for me to do is to just go through each episode and kind of just spoil, I guess, what happens. So if you haven't seen the show, be warned, there's spoilers. I don't know how else to do it. Episode 1, they said Aang is joined with Katara and Sokka. I thought the characters worked well together. Sokka he's a comedic character, but I didn't find him too annoying. Yes, I mean, he kind of reminds you of it being a kid show with some of his goofy antics, but he never got on my nerves. Katara and Aang, you get little hints that maybe there'll be a bit of romance for the future, a little bit. But Katara is the one that knows about water bending. There are times I kind of wish Aang used a lot more of the water bending since he learned that in the previous season. You see it bits here and there, but you just figure you see him use a lot more of a combination, air and then water, water and air. I thought we'd be seeing a lot more of that combination, so the fact we don't was a bit disappointing. Because again, he's supposedly, I guess you could say he's still learning, but at the same time, if he's ready to learn Earth, he should have mastered water a bit compared to, first season. So I think that a little bit more of that could have been done. But pretty much in this, we're establishing what's going on, that Aang has to learn about earthbending, that Zuko wants to find the Avatar, that his younger sister, is the new villain for this season. Our main characters go to find General Fawn, who wants him to use the Avatar state without learning the elements. Saying, just use the Avatar state, your big power, like you did the end of the first season. He did that. Just use that again, and you'll be unstoppable. But then you kind of find out that's a defense mechanism, and that it's powerful, but it's also when you're at your most vulnerable. And if you die during that, you cease to exist. And all of your past lives, they all cease to exist in the whole conundrum of the spirit world. Just what General Fawn does is makes it seem as if Katara gets killed and makes the Avatar mad and angry, so he gets in the Avatar state, just destroying everything, and finally gets calmed down and says, I don't want to be out of that control again. I did like General Fawn was being an ass, and Sokka was able to be the guy that just come up and knock him down. Because Sokka has no powers, he has no bending, so he's kind of the every man, the every guy. And he has a boomerang, he uses some plans and stuff, and again he's mainly the comic relief. So it was a nice establishment of what the story was going to be. Again, a little bit of emotion of he thinks someone he likes passed away, using it as anger, needing to control it. Nice building blocks to step throughout the season. Episode 2, Cave of the Two Lovers. That's where you get a little bit of seem love between Aang and Katara, which was cute for what it needed to be. Like he's blushing when she's showing him more forms of water bending. So then they find these hippie-like nomads. Meanwhile, Zuko and his uncle Mako, they find this flower, and they're not sure if it's tea or poison. So of course the uncle takes it, and you find out it is poison. So one thing our characters are trying to fly away, but they get attacked, so they gotta go with these hippies to go into this love cave. And the way these hippie guys they're always singing, they won't shut up. The way Sokka was being annoyed by them, I understood perfectly because I was just as annoyed as he was by these folks and wanting the shush. And I thought that at times this show does do a decent job world building to show other aspects of this world. For example, this is a cave system that's very confusing, and you come to find out there's a tomb which had the first two earthbenders, and a guy had passed away, so the woman who kept waiting for her love stopped these two villages from being at war with each other. And Aang and Katara realized that part of the way to light the way to get out of this maze is to kiss. Because love will find a way. I do like the bit of humor where it's like, well, I'd rather kiss you than die. I mean, that's a compliment. And Aang doesn't know what to say. Ultimately, they do. Kiss in the dark. Soon lights up. They find a way to go. Meanwhile, Sokka, Sally's stuck with these hippie guys and gals. And they find these big badger creatures and they get them out. There's another thing that's cool about the show is that some of the weird combinations, like you have an alligator but has little mustaches like a catfish. There's a bunny but it hops like a, and it's as big as a kangaroo. There's a, I'm trying to think. What was the other one I was thinking of? There was a, I'm trying to think what it was. Trying to see where that would be. I'm trying to remember. Saber-toothed moose. That's what it was. It's like a saber-toothed moose thing. Like I said, some interesting animal combinations. Some interesting creativity there. Overall, I thought that was a fun episode for what it needed to be. The hippie guys. I mean, I did. I mean, I was with Sokka the whole way with them, so I kind of understand his frustration. Return to Omashu, episode 3. I thought that had some really decent action in the finale because that's really where you get our first interaction between our heroes and the female, the sister villain. Because there's this city in Momashu that's been taken over by the Fire Nation, and there's this resistance underground, and they don't know why the teen had surrendered. But earlier, Sokka got these little modules because of this octopus creature that attached them. So they get the idea, we'll put down everybody else and they'll think it's a plague. Which works. The pentapot, I think is called. They're able to get out of it. But as they're getting out, the Fire Nation leader there has a kid that wanders around and no one notices it and wanders with the crowd. But then the bad guys think the kid was stolen. So they're willing to go up and offer a trade. We'll give you the baby back for the teen. And that's where you get a pretty decent action scene. Where Aang is sliding around and the queen bee, as I call her, is sliding around as well. And they're sliding through all this stuff here. Her using her attributes, him using his air attributes. That's why it would have been nice to see a little bit more of him using the water and show that he's using both elements. But it's mainly using the air portions. And the thing with the 20 episodes is trying to be a development of one story. So it's development of them learning about the bad guys and what they're capable of. Step by step, getting to know, getting to find the characters they're trying to find, the teacher that he's trying to find. It wasn't a bad episode. The swamp. I don't know, the swamp kind of, other than one bit where Aang has a vision of a little girl and you find out the importance of that in about 2 episodes later. I thought this is one of the episodes I cared the least about. pretty much they're flying. A tornado drives them into the swamp. That's where you get that gator catfish combination. The creatures at the moment are hunted by these swamp guys. Try to be like southern, you know, Cajun type of guys, it seems, of this world. The three get separated. They start seeing visions. Chitara sees visions of her mom. Sakura sees visions of this princess. And Aang sees a vision of this giggling girl. You find out that this swamp is one organism and they're trying to defeat it. And ultimately they do. And there's a guy inside this using some bending and pretty much telling about how everything's connected. If you touch it, everything's connected. It just... I just didn't... I felt like you could skip it and not really get much missing out of it. The action scenes didn't really gravitate me towards enjoying it. The three of them being separated is less interesting. It's more interesting when they're together and they're back and forth with each other. You know, the other characters, as one person puts it, it's just a bunch of greasy people living in a swamp. So, I don't know, that was the first episode that I went, it seemed kind of like a filler episode. That's just me. Episode 5, Avatar Day. That one, it was there. Started from a disgusting note where the soccer guy, he's sleeping and a spider web has been made in his mouth with a spider, and the Momo creature grabs it, and Sakura thankfully didn't, because I know if I woke up and there's a spider web in my mouth, I'd have a heart attack. But they're attacked by the Fire Nation, they escape, they get to the city, but the city's like, down with the Avatar. They're torching it. They have a fake version of him that they shoot a hole through his eye. And he's like, well, what's going on? How come you hate the Avatar? Well, one of your former selves, Avatar Kyoshi, murdered our leader. Now, there's some decent portions of animation. Like, there's a nice scene transition where the Avatar's like, well, I'm not going to fight. Listen, I'll pay bail. And then without cutting, it pulls back and he's in one of those, I don't know what you call it, where your arms are in each and your head's here. But the way I'm going to pay bail and it pulls out, how was I supposed to know they didn't take this type of money? I thought that was a kind of a fun, creative scene transition. And a lot of it is pretty much Sakura and Chitara having to prove the innocence of Aang. But really it became pointless because while they're gathering information, James Hahn, it's nice to hear him. He's kind of the guy leading that town. James Hahn, who's Lo Pan, Big Cholo China. But really at the end of the day, despite Sakura with his pipe and I want to solve it, it didn't matter because they give their case. The people ignore it. And then the Avatar of the previous, Kyoshi, just comes up and goes, I'm going to tell you what happened. I'm like, we could have saved 25 minutes. And this could have happened, 20 minutes. Like, first, it's a 24, 25 minute episodes. First 5 minutes, Kyoshi could have just come up and said, this is what happened. So what was the other 20 minutes for? Like, an investigation that didn't mean anything because it didn't matter? Or was it like some kind of custom that they had to do to resurrect Kyoshi to tell? No, it's just, nope, all of a sudden, I'm going to tell you what happened. Then Fire Nation, then bad guys appear. They ask Aang for help, and Aang goes, well, I mean, you're ready to boil me in oil, so I guess that you don't want my help. And James Hahn switches and goes, okay, fine, community service. Like, I thought that was kind of funny. And they save the people from these Fire Lord guys. I like that Aang does like a flying drop kick into one. But then it kind of cuts away, so I didn't know if they captured him, if they just ran away. Just pretty soon it just cuts to the characters then talking to James Hahn and them. I'm like, did they capture him? Did they tie him up? Did they put him in jail? What's the deal? But yeah, I mean, that episode, like I said, overall, I guess other than the show, a bit of the backstory of a different Avatar. Like I said, this could have been a 5 minute episode or 7 minute. 5 minutes and then the other 1 or 2 minutes for the action scene. It just, like I said, an investigation that went nowhere and didn't mean anything. It kind of felt pointless. So I did feel it got back on track with episode 6, The Blind Bandit, which I think is one of the best episodes of the season. Because number one, you have this underground earth-bending tournament, which I'm a sucker for, those fighting tournament motifs. Earth Rumble number 6 is what it's called. You have all these different fighting figures like the Boulder and Big Bad Hippo and all these other guys, and one of them is talking like he's in WWF. Yeah, Fire Lord. Like he pretends to be a fake Fire Lord singing the anthem. Kind of like back in the day WWF where you were a sympathizer of the bad guys and you're singing their anthem, whether it be Russia or wherever, Soviet Union back to the day. Was it Nikolai? Also, like Iron Sheik would do that with his flag and sing blah blah blah, and to create heat. So I thought it was kind of funny they would take a little bit of WWE or WWF, a little bit of that. I thought that was kind of fun. And you find out that the winner is this blind little girl who was part of the Vision in the Swamp episode. And I liked her attitude. I liked her. She's blind, but she's able to take care of herself. She's a bit unsure of people helping her because she doesn't want to seem useless. But at the same time, she didn't become unlikable either. As in, I liked her attitude. I thought the voice actors did a good job. And she becomes Ain's teacher. I like the idea that she uses echolocation a little bit like Daredevil. I kind of wish they used that type of artwork later on. Like more episodes of her using that. It's pretty much her touching the ground going, I hear something. That's why it would have been nice to see a bit more of that echolocation visual that's in this episode. And you get to see how badass she is because she takes on the 7 opponents because they think that she tricked them or through a fight and lost on purpose, but she annihilates all 7 of them. And that's a pretty fun action scene of how she uses the different earth bending, using rocks to bounce people off or throw it at people. I thought it had some fun action sequences to it. And it did a nice job establishing this new character. And overall, I thought they did a pretty good job with it. Like, that one, I would say, is one of the best episodes. Same with episode 7, Zuko Alone. Again, one of the best episodes. I mentioned how Zuko at times seemed more interesting than Aang. And he did more of his backstory, Dante Basco's backstory about, I always had the struggle and fight. She was born lucky, I was lucky to be born. Talking about her sister and how it seemed to be easy for her. But for him, it was always an issue, a problem. So in the present time, him and his uncle go to his Earth village to hold out, and they helped his little boy from bandits. And flashbacks, you see how Zuko loves his mother, and his mother tries to care for him. And his uncle, played by Mako, his son passed away, and the sister didn't care at all. But you tell that Zuko, as a younger, did care. And the sister's like, our dad would be a better Fire Lord than Uncle. And Zuko's like, well, he lost his son. What are you doing? And that the brother and sister, their father was mad at the grandfather, and the grandfather's like, you want to be mad at my firstborn son, Mako, that character? Maybe you should know how it feels like for a kid to die. Maybe I'll kill your son. And just you see more of the backstory of Zuko. You feel bad for the situation he was in and what he was going through. Meanwhile, in the present time, he's helping this little kid through these earthbending soldiers, saying, "You're not soldiers, you're bullies." Because even some of those soldiers are pricks. So you get the backstory of Zuko's mom. You get the idea that she was killed off, and again makes you feel more sorry for Zuko. Meanwhile, he does save this kid, but the kid goes, "I hate you," because they find out he's a Fire Lord. So it's like he can't win either way. No matter how he tries to win, he loses. And yeah, it just makes him much more of an interesting character, anti-hero, possibility of a character, and much more potentially interesting. So I thought that was a pretty good episode. And like I said, that one and Blind Man I would say is two of the best episodes of this season. Episode 8 was decent, called The Chase. I mean, the title infers that it's a pretty fast-paced episode. Our main characters are tired, but they keep getting chased by this vehicle. They don't know why. They kind of find out that the big flying bison they're on, Appa, his fur keeps getting shed. And because they can't sleep, they get more and more irritable with each other. They get more angry with each other. In fact, the how did I forget her name? The blind girl. How did I forget her name? Why do I not remember her name? Toph. 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 That's the blind girl's name, Toph. Who's going to be the earthbending teacher. But she goes, "Well, you know what? Your animals leading them to us. Maybe we should do something about that." Aang gets mad. He's very protective of this bison. So he yells at her and she goes away. Aang leads the bad guys away. Like I said, it goes at a fast enough pace because they can't stop anywhere to rest and sleep. Anywhere they go, they're always have to be on the run. Sokka's always complaining about, needing sleep, and you get some humorous reactions from him. You have this fight in this deserted town. You get some decent bits of action. Toph comes by to help out as well. Like I said, I thought it was kind of a fun, fast-paced episode. Bitter Work, I thought was another decent one. That's really making the story go along in a set path where while Zuko is helping his uncle, Aang is trying to learn more about rock bending, earth bending, and Toph teaching him. And Toph being a tough teacher and not giving him any leeway. And what she's able to do, like create this rock armor and how to move rocks. I thought that stuff was kind of interesting to see how this type of teaching is different from the water bending teaching of the first season, and how Toph is a different type of teacher than Katara was, and how all this is happening, and Sokka's trying to get some food, gets stuck in this crack in the floor, and you have this cute saber-toothed moose creature. Aang tries to help him. He doesn't know how to move it. Ultimately, he's able to do it and learn his first step into earthbending. All this time, Zuko is trying to learn as well. His uncle's trying to teach him lightning. Only he doesn't get it, and there's a nice shot where he's yelling at the storm, going, "Come on, strike me. You never held back before. Come on, you want me, come and get it." So, again, Zuko, like I say, Aang is not a bad character, but Zuko just seems a bit more of an interesting character to me. But again, Aang's not bad. Other episodes, episode 10, weird way to start it off where they find these gophers that kind of elicit their own orchestra. They pop up and they do hums of song. I'm like, okay, that's a weird way to start it. So they find info in the Fire Nation. and they find this professor, and they find this library buried in the desert, and in it they go in and they find a giant talking owl, voiced by Hector Elizondo, actually, from Leviathan, which is a favorite of mine, Beverly Hills Cop 3, among others. And he says, we don't want humans here because they always use information to attack. They lie and say we're not. They looked in the library, they find it, and that's where they find the big piece of information that will lead to the second half of this season, where there's going to be a solar eclipse. And when that happens, the Fire Nation can't firebend. So that way, if you attack during that moment, you could defeat the whole nation. And they need to get the information somewhere quick. The owl finds out that they lied, tries to stop them, they get out of it. You have some decent pieces of animation of them trying to fly out as everything's crumbling down. I didn't mind the design of this giant talking owl. And like I say, it does create some emotional moments of drama where, while it's happening, Toph is outside trying to help keep this flying bison Appa safe, but he gets kidnapped and taken. And so that leads into episode 11, where Aang is very mad and angry. Granted, I get where he's coming from. He's angry that his oldest friend, this bison, has been taken. But, he's treating everybody like crap, being got to a point that you want someone to punch him in the face. He even left his buddies in the desert and could have died. Like, I'm going to find him. He just leaves those three there. I mean, he's the one who can fly because of the airbending stuff, but he just leaves the three of them there with barely any water. And I'm like, wow, what a great friend. They say, I get that he's upset and angry, and that's the point. But he never really fully apologizes for that. Just acting like a dick. So, I get where he's coming from, but he's just acting like a twerp. So he's actually pretty unlikable. Sokka, as part of his comedic relief at this point, he finds a cactus. He gets high, and he's pretty much high throughout the whole episode. Reminds me of that scene in Young Guns. Meanwhile, Zuko and Uncle are trying to hide from these bad guys, and the Uncle, you find out, was part of the secret society, and they're able to be snuck out of the city. The Avatar finds the people that took his animal, but the animal's gone. So he gets to the Avatar state, and it's up to the girl, Katara, to calm him down. So it's pretty much just them wandering the desert, Sokka being high, and Aang being angry and mad, and more angry and more mad. And then this is when the season kind of took a turn for me, where it's going on this pace of, okay, we gotta learn earthbending. Now we found our teacher. Now we're being taught earthbending. Now the Fire Nation. We found this secret. We gotta go to this place to tell people. But then it becomes more about finding Appa the bison and less about this other stuff. I mean, it's still in the back of people's heads. They go to this city, Ba Sing Se, and tell them what's going on. But at the same time, it just felt as if the plot seemed more about finding this flying bison than about that. Episode 12, The Serpent's Pass. Yeah, Aang didn't really apologize for abandoning his friends to almost die in the desert. I figured that'd be something that maybe would come into play, but apparently not. They find these Earth refugees. One of them is pregnant. They gotta go to the outlands of the city. Meanwhile, Zuko and his uncle are going to get in the city a different way, and they meet these freedom fighters. One of them is Jet, who I think was in the first season. I could be wrong. It's been forever since I've seen that. Sokka also meets a childhood friend, Suki, and there's a little bit of romance between them. And pretty much they're going to lead this pregnant lady and these refugees through this dangerous path to get to the city. And I say sometimes it seems as if Toph, the earthbending lady, is more badass than Aang. I mean, some of the things that she does, some of the things that she's capable of, some of the things she's able to conjure up, she just seems like more of a badass character and badass fighter than Aang is. I know Aang's the Avatar, but it's like Zuko is a bit more of the interesting character study. Toph seems like a bit more of the fun, badass action bits. And then Aang, he's the lead, but he's fine. But if I said he was the most interesting character, I'd be lying. So it's not that he's a bad character, it's just that there's others that are more interesting than him. And I don't know why he's not using as much water since he learned in the previous season. I mean, especially in this place, you think he would be using a lot more water bending. Like there's this big serpent, thus called the Serpent's Pass, that they're trying to survive from. Things work out though. The lady gives birth. Aang regains hope. That was the whole point of that episode. Sokka and this girl Suti kiss. And like I said, no matter what I say, I at least appreciate that it's not trying to dumb the audience down too much. That is actually trying to tell a story with a bit of depth, with a bit of character, and not just a series of stupidity or fart jokes or whatever the case may be. I didn't feel like I was cringing watching the show because it's a cartoon. I thought for the most part, there's a lot of, goofy humor, especially from the brother character, Sokka. But for the most part, there's stakes to be had, there's danger to be had, and is trying to develop characters. So I appreciate that. Episode 13 was an action-packed one called The Drill. Pretty much this is Drill trying to go into the city they're trying to get to, so they find the ways to destroy it. Sokka is able to find the inner parts to mess it up, like what you need to do. He jumps with the plan. They come up with the idea. Finally, one of the few times I saw that Aang was using some water bending along with the Katara to try to mess with the structures and weaken them. And I thought he had some pretty good action because the evil sister and her two lady friends get there. Action happens. Aang versus this girl, trying to find a way to destroy this drill. I mean, I don't want to give too much away for those who still want to be surprised, but I thought definitely one of the more action-packed episodes. It felt like there wasn't a lot of slow parts to it. Also, it gives Sokka a bit more to do, since he has no powers, but he can use other attributes. I will admit, like, compared to the first season, I thought the first half of this season was more interesting than the second half. And the third part of it, I don't know, it wasn't as intriguing to me as it was to others. Because episode 14, Jet, the Freedom Fighter, thinks Zuko and Uncle are firebenders. He tries to prove it, he doesn't prove it, and he just put to jail. The others, main characters, are trying to tell the teen, but they realize the teen's a puppet and he doesn't even know there's a war going on. And in fact, the other guy, voiced by Clancy Brown, from the bad guy in Highlander, who's in Pet Sematary 2, no brain, no pain. Clancy Brown's Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai, he's been in a lot of stuff. Interesting to hear his voice in this. He's really the guy pulling the strings, so to speak. But it's pretty much just them trying to tell this teen over and over and over again and failing. Episode 5 was kind of a filler episode. Pretty much what each of the characters do. Random. So, like, Katara and Toph have a girls' day at the spa. And pedicures and mud baths. Mako. I liked the episode for this where he's doing all these good deeds. He's seen this song, Leaves from the Vine. he finally kneels and cries over a portrait of his son who passed away, and he sees that same son, only much more sad. I thought Mako did a really nice emotional job of voice acting, and that's where it said, in memory of Mako. So by this point, he had passed away, and I thought that was a very nice gesture. I thought that was very heartfelt, especially with what the scene's pertaining and the emotion Mako's giving. And Mako, I've always liked. Some people may be like, who's that? Mako, I mean, he was the magician who helped Conan in Conan the Barbarian and Conan the Destroyer with Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was the voice of Splinter in the TMNT 2007 CGI movie. I always see him pop up a lot of stuff. He was in The Perfect Weapon as Jeff Speakman's friend who something happens to him. He was the trainer to Jonathan Brandis in the Chuck Norris film Sidekicks. He popped up in a lot of stuff, and it was always nice to see him. And I thought he did a good job as his uncle character, because his uncle, despite how serious Zuko is, the uncle always has a humorous reaction. Like Zuko says, oh, I don't know if I should fight my sister, and he says, no, you should, she's pretty crazy. I thought it was nice to see Mako get a bit of a sense of humor stretched throughout these episodes, throughout this season. Like I said, I don't know if he's the voice in season 3. I don't know. But I thought this was a really nice piece for that character. Definitely the strongest part of the episode. Aang builds a zoo outside. That was the weakest part of the episode. And like the Avatar, like that's the most he got. He builds a zoo outside. Okay. Sokka gets a humorous one where he crashes to a girl's poetry, tries to do poetry to impress the girls, and gets thrown out. And then it was interesting that they had one for the lemur Momo, so there wasn't a lot of dialogue. It's like his point of view, him swinging through the top of buildings. There's these 3 cats that try to hurt him, but when they get caught, he helps them out. It ends with them purring at him. I thought that was kind of cute and kind of sweet. Interesting to see that story being told without dialogue, of course. And the cats actually show Momo this footprint, which is of the creature Appa that they were looking for. So I did like that bit. So that and the Mako stuff I thought was definitely make it enough of a worthwhile episode to watch. Episode 16 is pretty much the flying bison Appa. You find out what happened to him during all this time. He got caught, he got whipped, he got rescued, he gets to an area. Flashbacks of him being a companion to Aang as a kid, and Sky Bison will be a companion for life. Like I said, the bison stuff is a very cute design. He meets someone who helps him show the way of where Aang is. And then by the time he gets there to the city, he gets captured, and that's where you get that footprint that was in the previous episode. I guess it depends. I mean, the Appa creature is cute. I mean, I don't know if I need a whole episode dedicated to him, but okay, it was there. I've seen much worse. And then you get to 17, 18, 19, 20. They're pretty much all connected together. Where, like I said, it feels like more is the search for Appa and less about defeating the Fire Legion. Again, it just felt like that was seemed more prime front and center, the search for Appa. I mean, the point that the Bison got his own episode. And less about Aang being taught earthbending, learning more and more, him getting stronger, able to do more and more. Same with the water. That's the thing. Now we should be seeing a lot more of like earth and water combinations. So this is the Avatar. He's supposed to be able to learn how to do all of it. These combinations of earth and water, or earth and air, or water and air, and I don't know. We're not seeing a lot of that. I don't know if that's saved for the 3rd season, or that's just not how this works. But we should be seeing more and more buildup of that, but that's not the case, so that was disappointing. So the search for Appa, they find this Jet character, they find out that he was brainwashed, they get him unbrainwashed. He almost gets brainwashed again, but they're able to stop it. He gets hurt. very hurt. The characters are stuck. Appa arrives and busts through the characters. And you see more Zuko's growth as a character, because there's a moment where at times he wears this blue mask as another persona. And he has this bison in his grasp. He's going to use it against the Avatar. But his uncle goes, "What are you doing, man? I need to do this." "Are you sure you need to do this? Do you need this because you want to, or because you think you have to do it?" And that's the thing where you get this growth of the character and where he wants to. Like I said, it seems a bit more interesting and deeper than Aang's growth so far. Because Aang's growth has been, I don't know how the earth bend. Appa's gone, I'm mad. Now I'm not mad anymore. While Zuko seems like he's been through a lot more in the arena, been a lot more emotional turmoil with his mom and his sister being such a complete And like I say, that seems a bit more interesting. And like the last couple episodes is pretty much them, Clancy Brown being the bad guy, them trying to finally get to the teen, finally tell him what's going on, show him what's going on, ending with Aang using the Avatar state. And like I stated before, that's when he's vulnerable. And Zuko's sister shot lightning and pretty much for a bit kills Aang, kills the Avatar. And Zuko, still this who I'm going to choose on, he chooses the bad guys and betrays his uncle, even though he's not happy about it. Because I'm sure that's going to lead to the third season where he realizes his mistake and it's going to be his redemption tour, as they call it. He's going to go on his redemption tour. And that could prove to be interesting. And let's say it goes a little bit Empire Strikes Back type of ending where the uncle's been taken, Zuko's with the bad guys, Aang has been hurt. He got healed a bit with the Katara's water bending stuff. I mean, it's one of those things that seems like, wow, you get shot with a lightning like through him, or around him I should say, and did heal by the, okay, I guess that's the case. It's almost like the equivalent of, Trinity kissing Neo at the end of the Matrix. And in a way, that's what it kind of reminds me of. I mean, it definitely leaves people wanting and curious, but pretty much the earthbending city has fallen to the Earth Nation. Our heroes are on the run to regroup and to see what happens next. For Aang to heal, for all this stuff. It did kind of like Empire Strikes Back, where Luke battle Vader and he got his butt kicked. Han Solo has been taken. They got their butts kicked. The Empire won today. They might have won the battle. Didn't mean they win the war. So it's to set itself up for the third season, and that's why. The way the season ended is kind of like, okay, I still didn't feel like Aang really knew a whole lot about earthbending. Maybe a little bit, not a whole lot. I still barely even got a notion that he learned the water bending as much as he should have. It felt like more search for Appa than this other stuff. I don't know, I liked it. I didn't like it as much as the first season. There's some very strong episodes. Zuko alone and the bitter... What was it? The bitter thing? The Blind Bandit. Like, those are two of the better episodes. As well as Bitter Work. That was a good one. The Drill was a good one. Like, those are probably among the top 5 episodes. Like, the weakest, other than maybe The Swamp or Avatar Day, like, the way it ends is just... Maybe it's more manageable when you see the whole thing, but as of now, it's kind of... It raises the stakes. It brings a certain seriousness to it. And it's not a whole lot of sugarcoating. So I give credit to that. That's why I'm not going to be that harsh on it. I appreciate it more doing that than being cookie cutter or safe for kids. But not even, but I appreciate it. Just I'm sure in the long run it makes it much. It's kind of like Return of the Jedi, makes the ending Empire Strikes Back easier to swallow, all that stuff. But what do you say? I'm a sucker for happy endings. But overall, this is a pretty decent season. Like I said, I wish we saw more of Aang mastering the water and earth elements, using combinations of them. I thought we'd want to see more of that. We didn't get to see as much. Mako did a great job, as did Dante Basco, Clancy Brown, you got James Hahn. I think Mark Hamill, I heard his voice briefly in one of the episodes. I forgot he played the Zuko's father or grandfather, one of them, I forget which. Some cute designs of the creatures, some bits of world building, character building. Overall, it's a pretty decent show. It's a pretty decent show. I liked it more than James Cameron's Avatar. And yeah, I mean, when you watch M. Night Shyamalan's movie Avatar: Last Airbender, the show is way better than the movie. Just a movie they try to put a full season into one movie, and that is how it failed big time. One of the many reasons. But the show's definitely better than that movie. So overall, it was pretty decent. So sorry for the long review. Best I could do. Thanks for watching. Take care. And we will see you guys later.